Hi, I'm Jon Cohn, and welcome to The Boardroom. No, this isn't where we're going to figure out how to mitigate our latest PR disaster. This is where we're going to talk about board games, and one game today in particular. That's right, we're looking at Ghostland, the game that was designed by myself and Duncan Ralston based off of the book series of the same name. Now, this game just finished its Kickstarter campaign. However, if you're interested in getting the game, it's not too late. You can head to ghostlandgame.com or you can just Google Ghostland Kickstarter to late pledge now. I thought it would be fun today on the tail end of this campaign to make a video that goes into how exactly this game got made, how I managed to weave working in board games with working as a horror writer and somehow come out with the best possible result. So, with that, I'm just going to give you a deep dive into everything that happened. It all started about 2.5 years ago when I read the book Ghostland. I thought the entire time I was reading it, oh my god, this would make the best board game. Now, I have made close to 25 games in my lifetime, probably more. I've got about 15 that have been published. I don't think I've ever had a game come to me so clearly and quickly as Ghostland when I was reading the book. It had everything right there ready for turning into a game. It had a really interesting cast of characters with varied skills, powers, abilities. It had really spooky ghosts and a lot of them to put into the game as enemy creatures. And of course, there was the park where everything was going haywire, and we had the recurrence field generators, these electrical fields that kept the ghosts at bay, which had all failed. The perfect situation to build a game around, because then what are you doing? You're trying to rebuild these recurrence field generators while dealing with a ghostly threat and playing as the main characters of the book. That was the core of the idea, and I thought, perfect, let's go. So I decided that I've been playing with dice a lot lately, and I thought this would be a fun game to maybe do as a dice chucker cooperative game. We don't want people playing as the ghosts. I think that in a horror game, it works really well to have tension built by you playing as a group, as a team, against a threat of loss. I'm going to do a future video that's all about how to build tension in games, specifically horror-themed games. But for now, I think that that's enough dressing of exactly why I thought a co-op game would be the right fit for this. We had a bunch of ghosts. We had a bunch of really interesting items and things going on in the game, including orange pylons. Yes, the cones are in the game. And not just me. I mean traffic cones. So I built the game, a very rough prototype of it, and I took it to Duncan and I said, hey, I don't know you. This was an email. This was the first time I'd ever interacted with him. And I said, you don't know me. I've written a couple of horror books that you probably haven't heard of, but have you ever wanted a board game made? I make board games. He responded almost instantly and said, this has been my dream since I was 10 years old. I would absolutely love to have a board game made out of Ghostland. So from there, I refined my initial pitch because now I had somewhere to go with it. I had something to do with making a real game. And I took all of my ideas and I turned them into a functioning, decent prototype. From there, once Duncan was happy and we collaborated a bit on exactly what the game would play like and exactly how all of the characters would work, how all the items, how the ghosts would function, all of that stuff, once he was happy, we then started taking it to publishers. I started out with some of the older publishers that I've worked with, such as Everything Epic, who made my fantastic Grindhouse horror game, and a few other companies, including Beyond Killer Games, which I have a game coming out with them soon called The Bad Side of Town, which I designed with Andrew Nyberg. It wasn't the right fit for those companies. They were mostly focused on big movie IPs, which I totally understood. But while all that was happening, I saw a Facebook post from Crystal Lake Publishing that said they were opening up all of these new divisions, comic books, YA horror books, and what really struck out to me, board games. So I messaged Crystal Lake and I said, hey, I know you didn't publish Ghostland, but I've made a Ghostland game. It's me and Duncan. Would you be interested? And they absolutely were interested. It was one of the easiest pitches I've ever had in my life. They were excited for it. We were excited for it. They liked the idea we had for the game. So it happened very, very quickly. From there, we started working on turning my crappy looking prototype into a great looking game that we could sell online. I started putting together a team. So I grabbed my business partner who I've worked with for 10 years now, Nate Murray from Red 23. We've worked together on so many projects. He's a fantastic project manager. I knew he would be perfect for this kind of job. And he was very excited. For the box art, we managed to get Damian Worm as the artist. Now, Damian Worm, you might know the name because he did all of the art for the October Faction comic series. He's done a bunch of other comics too, but October Faction is a pretty big one. He was a big name to get for the board. For the cover. For the board, we got Henning Ludvigsen, who is a fantastic artist. He does, if you're familiar with the Zombicide board games, he does all of the board art for those. So another huge get. When it came to getting a graphic designer for the game who would make all of it come together and look great, it was a really hard sell, but I did manage to land my wife, Delaney Mamer, who has been a graphic designer in board games for 20 years. And she, of course, also did a fantastic job. So I think it would be fun while we're here to kind of look at some of my original work, because I always tell this to publishers, I'll make something that is functional, but looks like crap. And that's exactly what I did. So here is the board that I made originally for the game. You can see it's roughly the same as what the board ended up being, but it looks crappy. For reference, here's what the board ended up being. Quite a bit better, I would say. Old board, new board. I'm also going to show you a few of the cards and how they changed from my crappy Google hack job to a real artist, Marco Carrillo, coming in and making absolutely stunning cards. So here is my original card for the Swarm, probably my favorite ghost in the game. Here's Mark's incredible artwork of the Swarm. Unbelievable. Here is my Hateful Dead. Here's the final Hateful Dead. I think you could tell it's a little bit better. We've got Mrs. Ellen Cavendish, who came out looking great. We'll do one more. Let's look at the original Ben card. He's the playable character, arguably main character of the book. And here's the final version of Ben. Once again, it's not even comparable. I make bad looking things, but they work. So it just goes to show just how great and big of a collaborative process it is to turn these games from a crappy looking prototype into a beautiful looking final product. And I have to say again, I've worked on a lot of games. This one is maybe the most beautiful game I have ever worked on. It just, from top to bottom, it looks chef's kiss. So once again, if you are interested in backing Ghostland, which will be shipping sometime next year, you can pre-order it now by going to ghostlandgame.com, or you can just simply Google Ghostland Kickstarter. It's coming soon from Crystal Lake Publishing. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, if you have any questions about board games, about board game design, or if you just want to tell me what you're playing right now, be sure to leave something in the comments section. Thanks, and have a great day.